Hello, PBTISD. Today's Technology Tuesday is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to talk about apps that you can use in the classroom, but we're going to talk about something that's very, very important for us, for our students to learn, and that is digital citizenship. I'm going to leave a copy of this presentation in our website so that you can access it and you can use it in your classes if you want to. A lot of times we kind of separate in our minds the virtual world and the real world. When in reality, and we realize this in the back of our heads, a lot of the things that we do in the virtual world actually impacts the real world, and so much so that we can say that the virtual world that we live in is part of our real world. Now, if you don't know this guy is James Gunn. He was the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. The first Guardians of the Galaxy was released in 2014. It has made $771 million in the box office so far, and the budget for the movie was $232 million. So they made about $500 million since 2014 from this movie. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was released last year, and it has so far made 862 million, and its budget was about the same, about 200 million. So all in all, James Gunn has made Disney and Marvel about, say, $1.1 billion. Now, uh, the curious thing about this is not how much money he's made for them, it's that he was recently fired. And you might be wondering how somebody who could earn so much for a company can get fired. And it's because of tweets that he made or that he sent out. So these are the tweets. These are just some examples of the tweets. And the curious thing about this is he just got fired this year, and the tweets that he got caught for were from 2008 and 2009. So 10 years ago, he sent out these tweets, and it came back to him 10 years after. That's something that our kids don't realize, that something that they do right now can significantly impact their lives 10, 15, 20 years into the future. But James Gunn, he's a big celebrity, so people are going to target him. So let's look at a little bit more down to earth examples. Like last year, Harvard rescinded admission of 10 students over an obscene Facebook message. And they looked at not the Facebook wall where you post everything, where you post things for the public, but they actually looked at their chat. So Harvard had access to their chat room in Facebook, and that's where they saw, homophobic jokes and jokes about racism and all that. This one is pretty recent. So somebody got an internship in NASA, and they were bragging about it in Twitter, which is, that's not a big deal, but they used an F bomb in their tweet about NASA. And so somebody named Homer Hickam said, watch your language. And they even used more profanity. And it turned out that Homer Hickam is actually on the National Space Council that oversees NASA. And, because of that, she did not get the internship. And this one is an important example for students. This one says, the header says, Apple fired an iPhone 10 engineer after his daughter's hands-on video went viral. And it was a big deal because the video was actually made before Apple released iPhone 10. So the engineer took home a working prototype, and the daughter, probably saw an opportunity and made a review video about it. And her dad got fired because of it. And the one takeaway there for our students is that things that we do on the internet most of the time do not just affect us, but affect our family and the people around us. So that's one reason why they have to really be careful of that. So what we put on the internet stays on the internet. And we already know that. But one thing that the students don't know is that what we do on the internet stays there forever. And once something's on the internet, everyone has access to it. If somebody wanted to find dirt on them, they're going to find it if something has been posted about them in the past. So what is digital citizenship? This video is for your students. You can show it to them, but the summary of that is that, digital citizenship can be subdivided into 9 elements, and these 9 elements were identified by ST, which is an educational technology organization. And they said that it can be divided into digital access, commerce, communication, literacy, etiquette, law, rights and responsibilities, health and wellness, and digital security. So, digital access, the question here is, should internet access be a human right, a basic human right? Because we know that having internet access gives somebody an advantage over somebody that doesn't have it. You can look at this from the individual level. Somebody with internet has more access to information and tutorials and knowledge versus another one that doesn't have it. You can look at it from a district standpoint. You can look at it from a country standpoint. The reason, or one of the reasons why China's economy is so powerful right now, is because they leverage the internet so that they can sell, their merchants can sell all over the world. Now, if you look at data from the National Center of Education Statistics, this was in 2015 when they collected the data, and this is the most recent data that they have, says that 61% of children aged 3 to 18 has internet access at home. That's very good, but you also have to remember that what that means is that 39%, almost 40% of these students do not have access to the internet. And so that's, 4 out of 10 students that we have do not have internet at home. So that's a problem for them because, like we said, their access to the information on the internet is limited, but it can also pose a challenge for us as teachers because if you have 10 students and you want to flip your lesson for this class, what do you do? Do you flip it and let those 4 take the hit? Or do you not flip it and not give them that video for them to study at home and let the other 6 be affected by the situation? Anyway, so this is a topic for debate and discussion. But the reason why families don't have internet, so 2 main reasons are: number one, some families say it's too expensive, and some others say that they don't need it or they're not interested. So other people just don't know uh, how important having internet access is for our students. Digital commerce, it's continuously changing the way that we purchase things. Most of the time, we just purchase things off the internet. I mean, every single one of us at some point or another has bought something off of the internet. And, there are a lot of brick and mortar companies that are closing. For example, just in Odessa, Hastings just closed, Sears just closed, Toys R Us just went bankrupt. And these are all effects of digital commerce. The users need to learn about how to be effective consumers in a new digital economy. What this means is that it's so much easier for us to buy things off the internet, especially, for example, Amazon has the one-click buying option where you don't even have to go through the whole process. You just press the click button and then, you've automatically bought something. And this has significant implications for our students because, let's face it, students don't really understand what smart shopping is. There's a big difference between clicking to buy and actually handing over your money. Also, they have 24/7 access to Amazon, eBay, App Store, Play Store account, and all of that. But other than smart shopping, there are a lot of major issues that the kids need to understand, and included in this issues are illegal download of video and audio and software. There's illegal gambling, and then there's the dark web. Just recently, the CEO of a dark website called Silk Road was apprehended, so he got detained, and I think he's still in jail now. I'm not sure, but this is what his website looks like in the dark web. They use Bitcoin for their transactions, and they're able to sell different drugs just off of the internet. So that's how dangerous it can be. There are darker and scarier examples of what happens on the dark web, but we have to be aware of that so that we can protect our students and our kids from getting in there. So digital communication, The most common ones that we know of are email, texting, and messenger apps. But there's also voice over internet calls. That's when you're on Facebook Messenger and you hit the call button and you actually talk to the person on the other side of the chat. We have video conferencing. Now, for VoIP calls and video conferencing, it's easier to understand what the other person is trying to say. But for email, texting, and messenger apps, it's a little bit harder because you don't hear how they sound, or you don't see their body movement or body language as they're sending you the information. So for especially for text-based digital communication, make sure that you compose messages clearly. You read them after composing them, and then read them again before sending them, and you read them from the receiver's perspective. What are they going to understand from this email if I send it right now? Quick note: sarcasm and humor do not translate well in text-based communication. And one good example of this is this tweet from Miss Justin Sacco. I think she's a mid-level or high-level executive from a company. She tweeted this right before she went to Africa. By the time she landed, there was a hashtag about her, and there were a lot of reactions and comments to her tweet. And when she was interviewed, of course, she got fired for this, but during her interview, she said she was surprised that people took this seriously because she was kidding. And first of all, this it's not a very good joke, private or otherwise, and it's something that you don't put on Twitter, especially with this in mind. Sarcasm and humor do not translate well in text-based communication. Digital literacy, most of the time when we say digital literacy, the first things that come into our head is, can they read what's on the internet? Can they access the internet? Do they know how to navigate it? And can they write on digital media like Google Docs, for example? But although that is part of digital literacy, there's more to it than just that. They also have to be able to gauge the validity of a website or web content. They look at something and they're able to discern whether it's real news or fake news. They should also be able to create digital content, whether that's a blog post, video content, podcast, or wikis. They should be able to create these content so that they can leverage the internet and social media to their advantage. So digital literacy is finding that balance between digital consumption and digital creation. Most of our students, they spend a lot of time on the internet, but they do it as consumers. They just go in there and they take in whatever other people have created without realizing that they have within their hands the power to influence other people with great ideas and that they have. Digital etiquette is just clarity, behavior, and treatment of other netizens. So one general rule is, if it's something that you're not willing to do in public, then you shouldn't do it on the internet. If it's something that you won't say in front of your mom or your grandma, then don't say it on the internet. Digital law deals with what's going to happen to the students or to us if we do, some of these illegal things on the internet. For example, piracy, hacking, illegal downloads, creating and spreading malware, identity theft, spam. And our kids don't understand that, spamming could include sending emails every 30 minutes, but it can also be, you know, spamming can also take the form of social spamming, where they text a person every 2 minutes just to bug them or because they like them. So, that's something that they shouldn't be doing. Digital rights and responsibilities, these are just extensions of the human rights as protected by digital law. Has to do with ownership of software, for example, or content, cyberbullying, acceptable use policy. What are you allowed to do using certain software that you got off the internet, and what's not allowed? What are your freedoms? Does it include free speech? What's ethical use? So these are all parts of digital right and responsibilities. Digital health and wellness has to do with how you take care of yourself as you go on the internet. One good example is eye safety. In recent years, we've had more cases of eye problems, and we see this with the kids more often. We have more kids and younger kids wearing eyeglasses and contacts now just because they don't take care of their eyes. Uh, we also have sleep pattern disturbances because they use their screen at night so that they can get sleepy and fall asleep without knowing that blue light that comes from their device actually keeps their mind awake. We also have carpal tunnel syndrome and other repetitive stress syndromes like neck stress that can come from bad posture and bad positioning of the arms and the body while we're using the internet. We have to teach them about ergonomics and proper postural positions. If you're going to spend 8 hours in front of the computer, what should your body position be so that you don't get uh, all these aches and pains and injuries? One very important thing that researchers are studying now is internet addiction. Internet addiction is a real thing, and research has shown that people that go on the internet get spikes of their pleasure chemicals like dopamine and all the other reward chemicals that our brain is kind of craving. When you go on the internet, it kind of feeds that. When you get likes on social media, it spikes your dopamine and pleasure chemicals. Digital security has to do with setting and resetting username and password. Best practice is changing your username and password every 3 months. Uh, Being able to identify legitimate websites, messages, and links, recognizing scams like this one, for example. This is an email scam from Amazon, and some of you are gonna get this from eBay or from other stores that you visit. Uh, One very good way to confirm whether this is a legitimate email or not is just by going into your Amazon, for example, and checking your message center. Whatever they send you in email, they're going to send you a copy of that in the messaging center within their website. Another way to do it is just by hovering on the web address. And if it's really from Amazon, it's going to say something like www.amazon.com www.amazon.com/refund or something like that. If when you hover over it, it says amazonrefund.com, that's not from Amazon. Okay, it has to be amazon.com/something. Here's another scam email from the IRS. Again, same way to check it, just call them up. Uh, that's the easiest way to do it, or you can just hover on the link and see if it will take you to the right place. This one is an FBI scam where on this right side where it says video recording, they actually access your webcam. So you have a live stream of your face showing there, and that they put that there to scare you even more. But when these cases happen, the best thing that you can do is call up IRS or FBI or Amazon and just confirm that this is a thing that they sent you. And if it's the IRS or the FBI, most likely they're going to use snail mail. They're going to send you something physical and not reach out to you by email, anyways. Uh, so, which classes can address these elements? You're going to have these four can be addressed in any of the classes. These are more, I think, for the social studies classes. This is more of a science class, and you can focus on this during your finance or business or math class. So for the teachers, I've added some resources that you can let your students get into. Say if there's 15 minutes left in the class and some of them are done, you can have them get their Chromebook or their computer or their iPad and tell them to get on one of these websites. And these are live links, by the way. So I can click on this and it'll take me to that website. So you can play around with these even before you give it to them. But these are for the students. I also added some resources for the teacher. So Teacher's Guide to Digital Citizenship. These four are just articles. These Edutopia and Digizen, these are websites that are going to lead you to other websites. So, for example, Edutopia might have an article on the top 10 cyberbullying resources, or Digizen might have top 10 e-commerce responsible e-commerce resources, or something like that. So that is the end of this week's Tech Tuesday. Before I go, let me leave you with this. So this is a petition to ban uh, dihydrogen monoxide, and this is a prank that went around for a little bit, I think last year, 2 years ago. And if you look at these different bullets, it seems like a scary thing, but actually dihydrogen monoxide is nothing more than water. So a lot of people use the internet for propaganda and other things that they're going to benefit from. We need to teach the students that not everything that you see in the internet is true. Something that looks scary and harmful like this might actually be harmless, or something that might look harmless could be very, very scary and dangerous. So if you have any questions about digital citizenship and you need more help with it, you can email me or Caleb. We're going to work with you on this, or anything at all that has to do with educational technology. Please do not hesitate to let us know. Thank you very much. That's it for this week. Y'all have a great week.